Welcome back to the Dirtlife Podcast. Today I have a special guest, a little bit different than we typically do. Martin Socha from SurePoint Group.
First of all, thanks for having me, Scott. Really nice to be in here. Really comfy chairs. That's great. But yeah, I work at SurePoint Group. We're an energy service company, construction company. We're based out of Western Canada. We've got 9 branches in Western Canada, so we go as far east as Vancouver Island, and then we go as far east as Estevan, Saskatchewan, and then the vast majority of our branches are located throughout Alberta, and then we got a shingle up in Fort St. John.
One in Texas and Alaska too.
Yeah, and then we're up in Alaska, and then we're also down in Texas around Houston, and then we also work in different countries like Malaysia. We've been doing some work in Kazakhstan. We've been doing some work in the Middle East. Got some projects happening in Jamaica, but predominantly about 90% of our revenue is based out of Western Canada. We basically have 2 different revenue streams. So 50% of our business would be in electrical and instrumentation. So we do anything from new construction to maintenance to commissioning. So those would be all different field services. We also get involved in packaged equipment. So we do everything from control stations, control boxes, all the way up to big buildings for power distribution as well. So that makes up about 50% of our revenue throughout our organization. The other 50% would be on the compression side. So we get into fleet rentals. We have 135 compressors that we have up in Nisku for rental, anything from about 35 horsepower all the way up to 2,000 horsepower. We get those out for rental, or we sell them if a client is really adamant. We also are a distributor for a lot of natural gas engine manufacturers and compressor manufacturers. So we'll sell parts for Finning, for Cooper, for Ariel, for Waukesha, for White Superior. And then we also have heavy duty mechanics and millwrights that will do all the service and repair work that go along with it.
Kind of what I really want to talk about, because I'm a huge fan of what you're doing online. I've been watching. You're doing a lot to promote skilled trades.
Yeah.
So there's some issues in construction. There's some stigmas. How is that changing? Like I've been in construction on the dirt side for 20 some years, and when I began, there was like a lot of yelling and swearing, and people just didn't care about you or nothing. It's evolved throughout the years. Now there's safety and HR departments, and they can't really act like that anymore. So I feel construction is evolving in a very pleasant way, where like now I can honestly say construction is a good trade to get into.
The environment is definitely becoming more, I guess, comfortable for people to get into, right? I mean, when we look at the root cause of this whole issue, I mean, this goes back decades right now with the negative stigma in trades. And society has been programmed as to, the sole path of success for people growing up is to go to school and go to university and go and get a degree. And if you can't make it over there, then I guess you can get into the trades. And it's always been, for a long time, been looked down upon. Shop classes have been closed down over the decades. Guidance counselors don't talk about trades as a viable career option. Parents, even some parents that have been in the trades said, I worked hard with my hands so you don't have to. And, university is great in a lot of different ways, and I never want to villainize university, but it's not for everybody. And it's very expensive. And when you look at the cost of a degree in Canada right now over 4 years, the average tuition is about 50,000. If you add, room and board on top of that, then you're looking at 100,000, and it takes the average student about 6 years to get a degree, right? So you're looking at about, anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 to get a degree. And a lot of the students that are coming out from universities these days, they can't find a job, or they're unsatisfied in what they're doing, and they look for something else later on in life. The average age for an apprentice, and you and I had this conversation at the CCA a few months ago, is 27 years old. So what does that mean, right? These are a lot of kids and students that were lost in life, couldn't really figure things out. Nobody exposed them to trades at an early level. Or maybe they went to university and, like I said, they don't like what they're doing, but maybe at night they tinker around in their garage and go, hey, I actually like using my hands. I like building things. I like fixing things. And now at 27 years old, losing 8 or 9 years, doing something else, they get into the trades and they really, really do like it. And our industry does have to change. We definitely have matured. We've made it more accepting of, different people from different cultures. We're getting more women into the trades, which is wonderful. But we still have a long, long ways to go and a big stigma that we have to continue to reverse. So the stuff that you guys are doing with Pushysix, a lot of other people that are doing stuff online right now, myself included, how do we start talking not only to the students, and this young generation that's coming up, but how do we start reversing the stigma, from guidance counselors, and how do we start talking to parents? Because when you really look at it, parents are the number one influencer for where their kids go after high school. And the trades could be a very, very lucrative career. And just because you start on the tools, it doesn't mean you end on the tools. And you can look at your story and you can look at my story. We both started out on the tools. I ended up in sales and marketing and, being a VP at an employee-owned company, which I love, and I love our tradespeople. And you ended up on the marketing side and you're spreading the good word. So, and there's lots of different things you could do: project management, estimating, procurement, safety. You can run your own company. The limits, the opportunities are limitless. And when we look at the world that we live in, we need more skilled tradespeople. And the reality is, it's an aging workforce. The average age of a skilled tradesperson is well over 40 right now. And in the next 10 years, 30 to 40% of our workforce is going to retire. And for every 7 to 8 that do, only one new apprentice is coming up. So we do the math on that statistic, and we have a trades gap of millions of jobs coming up. And we got to do something about it.
I always use this example of you're a little kid, you're playing with like a bulldozer in a sandbox.
Yeah.
Your parents encourage that. Somewhere along the line as you grow up, they try to steer you away from that and go to college. I have a bunch of friends that have went to college and they have a degree. They can't even get a job with their degree.
Yeah.
Some of them, I see this as a common trend that people who think college is a good idea, they just pick, I think, a bunch of things to take and they don't actually look like, is there even jobs in this area?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my son wants to be a marine biologist. Okay, well, we don't live by an ocean.
Yeah.
And like, is there a lot of jobs? Do they pay good? Like, what's the future of that? Like, I don't want to be a downer, but like, you got to think realistically, like, don't go into something that you're just going to struggle with in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Or take on that enormous debt. Or you as a dad, you want the best for your son, so you're going to go and pay for his university, but that comes as a cost as well. And our job as parents, and I've got a little 4-year-old son right now, and my job as a dad is to expose him to as many different things as possible to fuel his curiosity. And when I see things that spark his interest, is to allow him to go and experiment and look at those areas. So I have a cool little story because about a month ago, we started to develop a bit of a leaky toilet on the main floor of my house. Right?
I seen a post about
Did you?
something.
Yeah. I'm going there with that one right now. So anyways, I procrastinated for a bit. So my wife's like, you got to go and fix the toilet. You got to fix the toilet. Anyways, I had stuff going on, throughout work and was busy traveling. Then we had holidays and I got home and the toilet was still leaky. And so, go to YouTube University. I looked at a toilet. I'm like, toilet's not that complicated. Anyways, for the life of me, my home builder had this fancy German toilet that they got, and I could not figure out like how to replace the fill valve tank and how to get at the gaskets and that type of thing. So, I figured out I had to call somebody in for help. But I stopped myself, and I'm like, man, this is a really, really good learning opportunity, not only for me, but for my 4-year-old son, right? So I created a poster in our house and it said Operation Leaky Toilet. And then I called him over and I said, Ollie, that's his name. I said, we got a big problem in this house. He's like, Dad, what is it? I'm like, we got a leaky toilet. I said, we got to fix it. But I don't know how to fix it. Do you know how to fix it? He goes, yeah, I know how to fix it. I'm like, no, you don't know how to fix it. We need somebody to come in and help us. I'm like, can you help me call somebody and then we'll learn how to fix this toilet? And he goes, yeah, Dad, let's do that. So I ended up calling Byron's Plumbing the next day. They're the plumbers that we used for our house. And I get him to join me on speakerphone. And we talk about the problem and what happened. I'm like, hey, can you send in the plumber? We got this leaky toilet. And the lady on the phone was very nice and receptive. And she said, sure, we'll get somebody out to your house the next day. So now the anticipation is building in our house, right? I got my little son. He can barely sleep at night. He's super pumped because he can't wait to see the plumber. And so plumber comes first thing the next morning. My son's standing by the window waving at him. And then, it comes inside and we greet him, offer him a cup of coffee. We tell him what we're up against. And we said, hey, instead of you just fixing the toilet today, can we watch and can we learn? And so the gentleman's name was Mike Giesbrecht from Barnes Plumbing. He's also an instructor at SAIT. Super nice guy. He opens up the toilet. He explains how the toilet works to my son and to myself. He has a hard time getting this fill valve gasket out of the toilet. Pulls it out, shows us the gasket that, had a bunch of pinholes in it. And then it was basically getting water in there because the pressure was too high and we had to replace the gasket. My son was just through the moon. Like he just loved being there, being with dad, being with this plumber, learning about the toilet. And it was just a really, really cool lesson for me as a dad, to show him this type of stuff and to fuel that curiosity, because I could have very easily called a plumber and just said, hey, can you come fix the toilet? And, my son's off to camp and I'm off to work, and come back and the toilet's fixed. But me being an advocate and loving the trades, it gave me an opportunity to expose my son to it. It gave me an opportunity to show him to how to identify a problem, how to deal with a problem, how to fix a problem, how to monitor the situation after, because I kept asking him the next day, I'm like, hey, do you hear that leak? No, Dad, it's fixed, right? But these are like critical skills that you have to learn through life. And then also show him what a life of a plumber looks like. And if he wants to be a plumber later on in life, I've got no problem with it as long as he is doing something that he is happy with. The other cool part about that story is I had a really long chat with Mike at my house, and we're talking about the same things that you and I are talking about. And he said, the plumber shortage right now in Alberta and throughout Canada is through the roof. I think at SAIT they used to have 6 classes. They're down to 1.5 right now. And he said if you had this same problem in Quebec and called a plumbing company, you'd be waiting 2 to 4 weeks to get a plumber to come to your house. Average age of a plumber is about 48 years old in Canada. And he said plumbers typically don't work past the age of 50 because, it's a tough job. You're bending down, you're fixing things, you wreck your back. So we need to get more and more people into the trades. And if we don't have plumbing, what do we have? They are our lifeline on this planet for clean drinking water and sanitation.
I think people aren't becoming plumbers of what you just said. You wreck your back and it's hard work, blah, 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 right? But yeah, we say that, but we need to highlight more specifically how great of a life you can have being a plumber. And it's a great trade. You can afford anything you want, basically. It's pretty damn good.
It's a license to print money right now if you get into plumbing. And look at the amount of new homes that we're building across Canada. And look at, and I don't know if this is plumbing or not, but look at all the water restrictions we've had throughout Calgary, throughout an entire summer due to, pipes that have burst. And then we don't have the right people, or maybe it's bad infrastructure. But this has been a continual problem that's been happening throughout the summer. My wife is really pissed off because all of her plants died, But the reality is we need tradespeople to build new things, to fix things, and to maintain things. And we often take it for granted until stuff breaks down. And then we want to fix right away. But with the shortage of tradespeople that we have right now, it's going to continually get worse unless we inspire more people to pursue these paths.
How do we inspire more people?
I think exposure is a big thing. One thing you said about people going to university, and I'll repeat myself, I don't want to villainize university because I think it's a great route for people as long as they go there with a plan in place, right? They do the research, they're like, hey, I really like, law, or I like getting involved in medicine, or, finances. And then they look at, what the financial reward is going to be after, because it's super, super important, right? Life is expensive. Inflation's, going through the roof. Groceries, mortgages, the cost of living, like all across the board. So you got to make money in life. So I think a few different things. Number one, showing them what a life in trades looks like. Showing people the growth. You can start here, but you can end over here. Showing them the wages, that tradespeople make this day and age. And tradespeople make really, really good money. And then just seeing what people are interested in, and there's a lot of different trades. I think there's 300 different trades in Canada, 54 are designated red seals. So there's a lot of different career paths that people can take. So find out what you're interested in, and then if you like it, and do the research behind it, and see if it's a good investment for yourself.
It blows my mind that being an equipment operator is not even considered a trade. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It is in the U.S. I just speak of that because that was
Yeah.
like essentially my trade for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's not even considered a trade. I mean, it's in the chain of construction that we all need to build houses. Like you need to build a road, you need to build the subdivision, you need to put in all the pipes and all that stuff underground for the framers to work and the plumbers to work. Like very big factor into building a community.
So let me ask you a question. So how did you get into that if it wasn't a trade? Like what was your backstory getting into being an equipment
My
operator?
backstory was my dad was a professional photographer.
Yeah. That makes sense now that you got into this.
Yeah, high level. Like he did stuff for Sports Illustrated, the Royal Family, like high level type stuff all around the world. I didn't want nothing to do with the family business. My passion was construction. So I worked on a tree farm. That's kind of how I got into it. And one day I hopped in a Bobcat and absolutely fell in love when I could lift something 2,000 pounds using this machine as an extension of my body. I instantly fell in love. Passion for the next 20 years. I was like, I'm on a mission. So in 2010, I began filming myself with my BlackBerry, shitty quality, but whatever. My thought was, well, if I love construction this much, I should show other people because other people might like it too. And it kind of, that's how my company began.
When it has to be right, you can trust Leica Technology to help you get the job done and grow your business with their cutting edge technology. Training employees is challenging and expensive, but Leica's simple to learn, simple to use products allow you to get your workforce up to speed much faster. Trust me when I say Leica Machine Control will help you move more dirt more efficiently. For more information on Leica Geosystems solutions, please visit leica-geosystems.com.
It's not just that, like also being on a construction site, I guess it would be the same if you're like on a site with a bunch of plumbers, but like you're with a bunch of other operators and it turns into like a brotherhood and like you belong to something and then like you feel like you have purpose because you're building a community together and like it just does so much for a person, builds self-confidence and like you have money and you're actually doing something, you have purpose, right?
You're providing for your family, you're building something, you can say, I did that. And you are so right about the community aspect and that brotherhood or sisterhood when you go out there and, you're with a team. And one thing that I've noticed, and especially in the trades, and it's far from perfect right now, the stuff that they're doing on mental health right now, it's not just the safety talk, making sure that you're wearing, the proper PPE, you're following the right processes and procedures, but there is way more emphasis right now on mental health, which is super important. Because if you're not mentally right, and if you're going and operating, some heavy equipment, or if you're going into a live plant, if you're, working on a live cable, I mean, the risk is much, much higher, right? And not only that, when you're involved in this brotherhood and community and working with your brothers and sisters, I mean, y'all care about each other, and you want to make sure that you're all doing well at home and at work.
I had a mentor when I first got in the machine, and the one thing that he told me that's kind of always stuck with me is like, you're in a very important position. You have a lot of power in your hands, and like, if you're not focused on the task at hand, you can like kill someone.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know, whether you're going through a divorce or a breakup or something with your family or anything, right? Like it's like you have to try to deal with that stuff before you come to work, because if you're thinking about that and your mind's not on way, you can kill someone, and then what do you do?
You could, yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of always stuck with me, but like I think that concept also goes into like other types of trades too. You know, like if you're a crane operator or if you're even a framer and you drop lumber on someone below you because you're not right in the, you're paying attention to something else in your life
Yeah.
outside of work, right?
Yeah.
Like it can affect all of us. So I'm very glad that mental health is a topic these days. It never was before. You just had to man up and deal with
Yeah, you just
stuff.
suck it up and go. Yeah.
I mean, it's no wonder why males a certain age are a huge percentage of suicides and stuff like that. Like, it's no wonder.
I think anybody that you talk to in your circle, I mean, everybody knows somebody personally, either in their family or their friend group or within their company or, you know, within that area. Everybody has a story of somebody taking their own life. And that is the worst thing, right? So how low do you have to go in order to get to that spot? And I think about that a lot. And a lot of companies have done some really amazing things, like create a buddy system. So you know you're looking at your group that you're working with. You're identifying if somebody's maybe showing up late or maybe not acting right or maybe just is not in the right headspace, and just kind of just check in. Right, here's your buddy system. Like, how do we check in on each other? How do we check that we're doing okay? And it's okay not to be okay. But you do have to have some psychological safety within these companies as well, so people will be able to open up and talk and seek help when they know that they're not okay. And also sometimes for other people to identify that they're not okay, because a lot of the time some people just don't even realize, that they're not okay until somebody points it out for them. So I think we're moving in the right direction for that. And I've heard a lot of really, really good stories. I've seen some really, really good stories on our team right now. And I think we're moving in the right direction.
A big thing that comes to mind with trying to inspire the next generation and get people into construction or interested about it is like social media. Now, when I was doing my thing there at the association the one night and you showed up, I could tell instantly by kind of what you were saying that you, above most of the business owners that were present, truly understood the value of social media and you're trying to harness it to help the industry. Explain a little bit about social media and how it can provide value for companies or just whatever.
I think the biggest thing is exposure, right? I mean, this is how this generation and even our generation absorb information this day and age. And this little 4-inch device, on a personal front, this could be your greatest tool or it could be your greatest detriment. And I remember reading a study 10 years ago, the average person used to spend 30 minutes a day on their phone. 5 years ago, an hour and a half. Last year, 4.5 hours, and that doesn't include the TV and it doesn't include a computer. Now, a lot of people are addicted to social media and everything else, and we got our games, we've got our emails, we've got our text messages, like there's so much stuff that's on this device. But if you use it the right way, it can be a really, really good thing. The other side, from a marketing aspect, if people are on their phones for such a long period of time, and if they're on the TikToks, and if they're on the Twitters and the X's, if they're on the LinkedIns, if they're on the Instagrams, we have to start creating good content to reach these people. And, I think it's a wonderful tool, and a lot of construction companies, still like doing things the old way. They might not necessarily believe in marketing. Marketing budgets are really, really small, even though some construction companies make a lot of revenue. So I've always been a big proponent of more marketing, more marketing, more marketing, not only for brand exposure, but for exposure for people that are interested in getting to the trades and also reversing that stigma. And for me, I really go after more of the parents and the guidance counselors for a specific reason, because if I can get them to change their mind of how they look at the trades, maybe they'll expose their kids.
So pass that on.
Or pass it on at least. Or maybe, if Bob or Susan come up to their parents and say, hey, I want to be, heavy equipment operator, or I want to be an electrician, they go, no, you can't do that. You have to go to university. But maybe by seeing some of this marketing material that I'm putting out there, they'll go, hey, actually, that's not a bad idea. I saw an Instagram video or a LinkedIn video or something on TikTok the other day and talked about, hey, that's actually pretty cool. You can make, this amount of money. It's only going to take you, so long to get trained. You don't have to take on all the student loans debts that you would have to at university. Yeah, you can live at home while you're doing this stuff with me. And there's lots of opportunities in front of you. So once we start squashing some of that stigma, I think it's really going to help. But it's not going to happen if we don't say anything. And it's not going to happen if we don't get on these platforms and start doing some stuff. So I love what you guys are doing. There's some other companies throughout Calgary that are doing a really, really good job. And I just want to be a part of that, puzzle, I guess, or part of the solution, just to try to get more stuff out there with SurePoint Group. And when we look at our company, throughout 9 branches, we have about 450 employees. We're also employee owned, which we're very, very, very proud of. And we've done that for for 3 different things, and I'll get into that in a second. But when we look at our employee base, we have more work than we have people, and we're always scrambling. And we have an aging workforce as well, so how do we get more apprentices? How do we get more people into the trades? How do we get out to these remote communities? And you do that through marketing. The one thing about employee owned, I just want to go back to that for a second, is we see a lot of construction companies, and most of them are privately held. It's either private equity or it's, a few people that own it. And for us, why we wanted to make it employee owned was number one, if we really do well as a company, it shouldn't be a few people in a boardroom popping the champagne. We want to be at a banquet hall having a buffet and everybody gets to eat and everybody gets to celebrate. Number 2, because of the shortage and the amount of skilled tradespeople that are out there, we needed something as a recruitment tool and a retention tool. How are people going to come to our company and how are they going to stay with our company? And the last piece was, how do we get people to care more? So you like to use the analogy of a rental car, right? You go and you drive a rental car and you might mess it up. Well, you don't worry about it because you drop the keys off. You get a flat tire in your own car, or if you ding it up, guess what? You're going to have to go and fix it. So we found that really, really, really worked. And I think employee ownership is great and critical for the trades.
Most construction companies hear brand awareness and they're like, well, we don't need that. But to me, brand awareness, it leads into so many different things. Like, do you not care about recruitment? Because this is like what brand awareness does over time. Yeah, it doesn't work the day that you put out a post, but constantly building awareness for your company and showing how, I guess, amazing it would be to work there and what you guys stand for and your culture, stuff like that. That has a huge impact. Like I like to use myself as an example. Like, everything that I've done within the past 10 years, I've traveled the world and worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, stuff like that. It's like, well, I got all that through social media. So like, if I can use it to make my life better, why can't you use it to make your company better, stronger? Like,
why do you think? So there's a question. So yeah, we see the companies that are doing stuff. And I was at that event that you guys put on. And by the way, you guys did a phenomenal job. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this program getting rolled out, okay? And we'll get there eventually. But I also noticed there was a lot of hesitation. And so why do you feel you get so much hesitation in this space? Because this is your business, right? You go out, you market different companies. You have to do calls like I do in a different level, right, to generate revenue. But why do you feel like there's so much hesitation on the marketing side in construction?
Because it's always been a certain way, and that's what they're used to doing it. So people in construction are they don't like change. This is why Cat can't come out with a new cab on their bulldozer every year. They got to make slight changes over a decade. People in construction will just shy. They're like, no, don't like it, hate it, not buying it. We're going with this brand. So like, I think people in general in construction don't like change. It has to be in small increments, I do believe. And it's a big change and a big investment to get online and doing it, I guess, correctly and like consistently. Most construction companies, they maybe try it, they don't do it correctly, and then they just give up. Well, this isn't working. Well, yeah, you tried for like a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes consistency and stuff like that, right? So
They want the immediate results right away.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm spending $5,000 on this ad campaign and it didn't get anything for it, so what's the point?
right. So like if you invest it and you do consistently, yeah, you might have to spend a fair amount. Your return on investment may take longer, but like once you have that kind of infrastructure built online, you can use it for whatever you want. So like myself, for example, I got across all platforms, I have like 500,000 people I can access. So like if I want to sell something, I can sell it.
Yeah.
They're all there. If I want to hire someone, I can hire someone. Like, can use it for whatever I want. But a lot of people still don't see the value in it. I mean, they are, because now I'm in such high demand.
Yeah.
Because everyone now realizes, like, yeah, I need to get on social media and using it, or I'll be left in the dust. There are some clients that we work with that we got them so big online, there was people moving across the country to come work for them because just the perception of the company.
Yeah.
They don't have to bid on jobs. They don't have to put Indeed ads out, hire people. It's like all through social media. They've just created this giant reputation, perception online that just like people want to go work there.
It's like that old Field of Dreams movie with Kevin Costner, right? The build it and they will come. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it says that in the Bible, actually.
Yeah.
That's like a thing.
It is. Yeah. Actually, just recently started rereading the Bible, which has been an interesting journey for myself. Yeah, no, I think one thing that I always question, and I'm the polar opposite, right? I'm like, get stuff out there, and I'm like, show our people, not just the equipment and the projects. Like, oh, here's a project we did. Highlight our people and show them what they do, and show them the good, bad, and ugly of the profession, right? Show them that we're working outside when it's minus 30. Show them that we're working outside when it's plus 30. Show them all the different things that we're doing, from an equipment standpoint, celebrating different people's parties and events and anniversaries and that type of stuff. And I'm okay making a mistake online. Obviously, it has to be safe, right? Whenever people are, at a site, wear the proper PPE, make sure we take all the right photos, that type of stuff. We're not getting in the way. But what I mean from making a mistake is I'm not afraid of, looking silly or whatever. It's just a photo or a video and you keep moving forward. I feel that sometimes there is a negative stigma towards marketing, like there's a negative stigma to the trades where, you have these professionals that we're very good at a craft and we're almost perfectionists when we get into the craft that we're in. And then you start doing some of this marketing stuff and it's uncomfortable. And then they don't want to look, I don't know if silly is the right word, but they just want to make sure like that it looks perfect. And it shouldn't look perfect because we live in an imperfect world. So it's trying to kind of lower those stigmas down and then just getting some content out.
Most of the big guys, big companies overthink it to the point where it's like they never put nothing out.
It's paralysis by analysis.
Right, so they're doing more damage by doing nothing than actually if they put something out. Like, I've always said, you could have or sell the best thing in the world, but if no one knows about it, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So, like, also, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Well, yeah, bad publicity is good publicity. I mean, look at the Hawktua girl down in the U.S. I mean, she just blew up all over the place. And I think she's great, by the way.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's just completely embraced it and very wholesome, which is cool.
The power of social media.
100%. Yes. Yeah. So, and then I look at these big companies and I'm like, why don't they have a bigger emphasis on social media? Because in order for them to sell their parts, in order for them to sell their equipment, they need more skilled tradespeople using these things and operating these things. And we all see the wall or the cliff, right? We all see the average age. We all see the amount of people that are getting into the trades today versus what it looked like 30 or 40 years ago. And we all see the state of all of our infrastructure right now. And we need more tradespeople. And I look at these companies and I'm like, why aren't you doing more? And they should be doing more.
They should, but they're scared, or they don't see value in it, or
Yeah.
don't want to invest in it yet, or just, I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons.
There is, yeah. But I think they're right. They don't want to look silly, or maybe they already feel like, the brand recognition is big enough and maybe there's some arrogance there. But I'd like to look at companies that want to do things together. And just because we're in electrical and instrumentation and gas compression, I love talking to the plumbers. I love talking to the heavy duty, equipment operators. I like talking to the mechanical companies, the pipeliners, all these different types of trades, because, it is a community in itself as well. And we can all work together.
A few things I want to talk about outside of kind of what we were doing there. At SurePoint, you guys provide EV charging solutions.
Yeah. On the island, so we've got those 9 locations throughout Western Canada. Throughout 8 of those locations outside of Vancouver Island, we're very industrially focused. So say 80 or 90% of revenue comes from oil and gas clients, right? So we work on well pads, work on facilities, that type of work. On Vancouver Island, it's a little bit different. So that's where we really focus on renewables. We do a lot of solar installs, we do a lot of EV charging stations, and then we get into some commercial and residential projects as well.
Seeing as your position, I don't know how much insight you have on this EV charging, but like the power grid right now in California not being able to handle everything. Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, we got a long ways to go. Like I know the federal government had this mandate of getting rid of, combustion engines by 2030 or 2035. It's not going to happen. Like that's not a good transition plan. Do I think EVs are good? I think they're pretty cool. Do I own one? No. Will I own one anytime soon? No. The grid can't sustain it. There needs to be a good transition plan, in my opinion. But we're seeing some of the infrastructure come up to start supporting these vehicles. And the EV sales are growing. You got great companies like Tesla and a variety of other different manufacturers like Ford and I know every manufacturer basically is coming out with a different EV right now. So they are coming up, but it's going to be a lot more slow and gradual than people think it's going to be. So it's a small piece of our revenue, but I think it's going to continue to grow.
It's tough in construction. Like I'm in the equipment world, and like a machine can only run 6 to 8 hours on electric, and then it takes like 18 hours to charge it. Like that's not really realistic on a construction site these days.
No. Even when you're driving, I mean, you get those things called, what is it called? Something anxiety range, when you're driving and you don't know if you're going to make it to the next charging station, and you can kind of map your route out, but then you get there and then you got a lineup of 10 other cars that are charging, and now you got to get in that line and then you got to charge before you go anywhere else. So there's a long ways to go. So like I said, I'm not going to be going to EV anytime soon. Our team on the island has a couple EV vehicles just to support our business out there too. And I mean, really, when we break it down, I mean, we're electricians, right? So you need an electrician to go install an EV charging station. So we definitely want to be a preferred service company and a supplier for that when those opportunities do come up.
I was on your website doing some research about you guys. You're using some type of augmented reality?
We were, it was the Microsoft HoloLens. We're not using it as much anymore. We started experimenting with it just before COVID. So we actually teamed up with Microsoft probably back in 2018 or 2019. And they created this thing called the HoloLens. So augmented reality, you can see this room, but then you can put all these digital overlays. So the cool thing from a construction company is you can walk into an empty building, You can basically create a 3D model of what that inside of the building will look like. So I'll use like a power distribution building on our side. So we did use this for this, but we basically have a shell in a building, and then using the 3D model, we would figure out where the switchgear goes, where the transformers go, how we would run the conduit in that building, where we would install the receptacles, the light switches, the lights up top. And then our team would basically put on this HoloLens, and they would walk into this empty building, and they're like, oh, well, I know where the switchgear is going. I know where the lights are going. I know where to put the receptacle over
Or
here.
where not to put
Or
stuff.
why not to put stuff, rather than going back and forth between prints. So that worked out really cool. So we were doing that for a while. And then we had this idea, because a lot of our business comes from maintenance runs, right? So we have our branches in Fort St. John or in Grand Prairie or in Nisku. And a lot of the times we'll get a call out going, hey, like this motor's down or this panel's not working. Can you send out a service tech? So by the time, guy hops in a truck and he drives out there, well, you have a little bit of risk on the road. Sometimes they would go out there, they would diagnose the problem, and then they would realize they don't have the right parts. Now they got to drive all the way back to town, then they got to go all the way back. And so we're like, hey, what if we use this technology and if we created a rental model with these HoloLenses? So CNRL, one of our big clients, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine you're CNRL. We're like, okay, hey, Scott from CNRL, we're gonna, give you this HoloLens. You're gonna pay $1,500 a month, okay? You're gonna use it when you need to use it. Now, when something breaks down at your plant, you put the HoloLens on, you call one of our service techs, they see what you see. So they're like, cool. Hey, Scott, open up that panel. Oh, yeah, I got it right there. You see that fuse? That fuse is blown. Pull that fuse out, put a new fuse in. If it's something that you can't fix on the spot, or if it's too complex, or if it's going to be a safety risk, at least our team knows what they're dealing with before they get out there. So they'll bring all the proper parts and pieces in place. So we kind of rolled that out. We didn't get, as much buy-in as we thought, but then COVID hit. And so
that messed up everything.
It messed up everything, but it really, really helped us in a few different ways, because the world was under lockdown. And a lot of our clients that would come up to Nisku to see some of the buildings that we were working on, because when we do a big power distribution building, we work with engineers closely, and then they want to come in, at a 20% walk through, or a 40% or 60%, and they have all their checklists, and they make sure that the building is being done right and to standard. Well, now COVID hit.
They can view from home.
Nobody could travel. So exactly. So our techs would put on this HoloLens, and then we would have that engineer on the other side going, hey, like, can you go over and check that control panel? Can you zoom over here? Can you zoom over there? And we had the ability to do those walkthroughs remotely. And then one of our big clients, ABB, we were doing a bunch of buildings for them. They thought it was such a great idea, and they said that this would save them so much money, because the amount of money that they spend, sending people, directly, versus using some of this technology, like it was in the millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it worked out really well for us through COVID, and then COVID ended, and people wanted to see each other again. We haven't seen each other for 2 years. Like, okay, let's put this on the shelf. So we still have it, but we don't do too much with it anymore.
I asked because I love augmented reality, also tech in general. Mm-hmm. But I really asked because I think tech is one of those things that maybe can attract the younger people
100%
into construction. So
yeah. How do you gamify things, right? And I don't even look. I look more at virtual reality. There's a lot of really cool companies that are doing stuff on both sides. Mm-hmm. There's some companies that have developed training programs using virtual reality and augmented reality, and it just gives exposure to people that want to get into the trades, and it keeps them safe at the same time. Mm-hmm. Living in this virtual world. If you blow up a transformer in a virtual world, you're not going to hurt yourself, right? But you at least learn the lesson of what not to do the next time. And you can definitely learn real skills before you actually go and work on live equipment. So I think it's really, really cool, and it's fun. People love games. We live in this immersive environment these days. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. think what you guys are doing is really good. We need more companies, like yourselves and like us, and just continue to bang the drum, and get the message out. It takes a village to create change, and I'm really confident things are going in the right direction right now too. So I just want to thank you and your team for everything that you guys are doing, and I really hope that we can work together later on in the future.
Yeah, well, we will at some point. So yeah, like now that I don't actually work construction anymore, I had to find a new purpose. So like I might as well use all the platforms I've built throughout the years. And now this is a new purpose, trying to help construction. So yeah, collectively we all need to come together and do our own part. So thanks very much for coming on. You gave a lot of good insight on everything you specialize in. Awesome. Thanks for coming
Bob.
on.
Appreciate it, buddy.